that you can have no real meaning, but they're also found inside of the houses too. Now, you can only get into some of the houses on this level, and if you do go inside of them, they look very liminal and almost like a real-life house. And some people have claimed that they've even seen friends and family members' houses here. And speaking of the houses, I'm going to talk a little bit about them now, because they're very interesting to say the least. For the most part, they all resemble each other pretty closely. However, sometimes there is an instance where a different-looking house will be in the row. And when you interact with those houses that look different, that's when the weird things start to happen. The entry calls these weird things spatial distortions, which pretty much means that the environment will start to warp and change itself into something else. Typically, it'll change itself to a very liminal and nostalgic looking place, and you will really get the feeling like you've seen it or been there before. Almost like the entire level morphs into a dream of some kind. And during these dream sequences, many people have reported seeing houses moving and glitching and just floating and other random things being warped like that. Also, during these spatial distortions, the light on the level can be changed randomly from bright to dark to dim without warning. Overall, this level is so volatile and just very morphy and glitchy that you probably should avoid interacting with it. Even the entities on the level itself are affected by these distortions because they look weirder and they behave more out of the ordinary for their species, and everything is just different about them. The entities that are mainly found here are the normal backrooms entities like wrenches, death moths, hounds, that kind of thing. But they're all glitchy and they all warp in and out of existence, just like the rest of the level seems to. Now, there are a bunch of theories on why this level warps in and out of what you can see and what you can perceive, and one of them is...
What is it? Come on. I got a perfect idea. Hey guys, I'm gonna take Melinda to another level, and fuck that. Okay. Get back soon. I will. I mean, we will. Come on, Melinda. Got it. The trouble I was going to surprise. Well, here we are. Hey, boss. Hey, boss. Hey. This is a school. What about a... assembly... courtyard... then courtyard... classroom... classroom... another classroom... then another... then the cafeteria. Three, two, one, action. Press play.
Called the glitched reality theory,
you know.
And this next quote that I'm about to read comes from an anonymous manga researcher, and I think they explain it pretty well. Quote, so we got the test results today, and the outcome was quite shocking, to be fully honest. The answers that we got were something that I wasn't personally expecting, so what we found was that these special accommodations on level 995 have something bewildering to them. When they questioned why they decided to interact with these, knowing the potential consequences of the spatial distortions, what we got was that these houses looked exactly like replicas from their homes in the front rooms. The reason we found this significant is that there are numerous amounts of similar claims. If this is true, then that could explain a certain correlation between level 995 and and reality. For some reason, buildings from the front rooms also coexist here in the back rooms. This could be a reasonable explanation to why these glitches occur when trying to interact with one, a sort of fusion between two realities. The question is if the back rooms and the front rooms are related in some way. End quote. So yeah, if you didn't understand that, it was pretty lengthy theory, and I think it would explain why people have seen their own houses or their friends' houses here in this level, even though they're obviously not in reality, they're in the back rooms. It's also thought that the longer you stay in this level and continue walking down the road and that kind of thing, and the longer you interact with it, the more warpy and glitchy and volatile and more it breaks down, the worse it gets overall. It'll eventually get to where it's just so glitching and warping between day and night and real life and back rooms that it'll be hard to exist there properly, and you'll kind of just start phasing in and out of existence, which I don't think anyone wants to do that, so you probably need to know how to exit. There are no bases or outposts on this level because, to be honest, it would be too dangerous to stay here for long periods of time. But to enter the level, you can break into a house that's locked on level 9, which is only some of them. Most of them are unlocked, so you have to find one and you kick the door down. And to exit, you can find a blue house that kind of looks out of place, walk inside of it, and then it'll be sent back to level 63, which is probably better than being here. So level 990 has a classification of class variable because it has mysterious properties that we don't quite understand. There's also a ton of changes in the environment that can be dangerous if you're not knowing what you're doing, so listen up for this video if you want to know how you can survive. Now, the level itself is split into two parts, the above ground city area and the underground sewer system. And I'll explain both of them individually in a second, but first I'm going to briefly go over some notes about the entire level. The surface of this level is very calm. There's a light breeze blowing and a thick mist that covers most of the air around you. The mist and the breeze are hot though, so the entire level feels like a humid jungle, like you're literally in the middle of a rainforest, except there are city buildings there too. Above this mist, there's a light blue sky during the daytime and a dark purple sky at nighttime. So when it's dark, it's actually purple, which would be really cool if you think about it. This level, just like a ton of other ones, has a lot of non-Euclidean properties that mess up traversing and mapping it. So good luck trying to find where you're going. You might as well just go with the flow. Now these properties are actually more common when you're in a tight hallway or an alleyway or a sewer here, so if you're out in the open, you should be okay. Another weird thing here is that wanderers cannot meet up or see each other. Like if there's two people on the level at the same time, they'll never know because they can't see each other and they cannot interact, which makes this level have a really strange isolation effect. Kind of like the level 0 one. The buildings on this surface area are pretty similar to the ones from real life, with just a couple differences. Like some of the signs are written in unknown letters, or some of them are blank, and some of the architecture is a little too advanced for humans, but other than that, they're pretty normal. But also, most of the building types, as you can see, are covered in vines and in leaves, and are incredibly overgrown. There's also two main types of weather that can happen here. One is a calm and sunny type of vibe, chill stuff, and the other is a torrential rain, like literally a monsoon rain. And these two weathers can flip instantly, just with a snap of a finger. 1 second it'll be nice, and the next second it'll start pouring the rain and the streets will be flooded. The last strange thing about the whole level is that the objects here that are inside the buildings can randomly disappear and appear at all times. And this will happen with vending machines or water fountains or shelves or that kind of thing. Some of those items are not useful because they're old or whatever, but some of them are food and water. So if you get lucky, you could see a turkey or something teleport into a building right in front of you. So now I'll get into the two specific zones in more detail: the surface and the sewers. So the surface is the area I just touched on, and it's actually where you'll spawn if you get sent to this level. It's the easiest one to walk around in, and it's the easiest to explore, except except for the non-Euclidean factors that could get you lost. The best way to describe the surface is that it's like an abandoned urban sprawl that's been overgrown and taken back by nature. The buildings have plants growing on the outside and growing on the inside, and even deeper inside of the buildings, there are gross, disgusting rooms full of decaying plants and mold, which is just nasty. And as I said earlier, this level is prone to random monsoon rain showers, so that means that the surface will be drenched with puddles and runoffs and waterfalls and everything like that too. And these rains can also flood the buildings or entire streets if you're not careful. Entities are pretty rare for this top part, but there are two main ones that have been witnessed so far. One is a strange, shadowy figure that lurks in really overgrown areas of the city and in the alleyways, and the other is a strange type of water creature that's been seen in the flooding rains and waves of monsoons. Not much is known about either of them, but I'll tell you all we do know in the entity section. Now for the sewer section of the level. This is obviously a way more dangerous place, and it's much more dangerous than the surface, because it's very prone to flash floods. So you could just be walking in the tunnel of the sewer, and then randomly you could hear a rumble and turn around, and a huge thing of water will be coming right at you. There's also more non-Euclidean properties and more entities here, so just don't come here. Also, there is no natural light in these sewers, which is of course a hazard, but the biggest hazard...
Here at HCF, we created Flex My Extras, so you can choose how you spend your limit. Spend a tiny bit on teeth whitening.
Is those flash floods, and you wouldn't want to be trapped inside of a sewer when it's flash flooding. Just like the top of the level, there is overgrown vegetation in the sewers as well, even though there's no light here, and you could trip and get tangled in it if you're not careful either. These sewer... Level -2 is classified as a Class 4 survival difficulty and is unsafe and unsecure, with a medium entity count. Also, sorry, my voice is kind of weird. My nose is stopped up. What's new? The entire area of level -2 is actually split between 4 different sub-areas, which I'll explain in a second. The whole level is considered to be dangerous all the time because there are multiple undocumented hostile entities and multiple properties that are not understood about at all. And the level itself actually emits a really weird energy that attracts wanderers to it as soon as they get close to an entrance door to the level. It sort of lures them in. No one knows how or why this happens, so that's pretty creepy. Now I'm going to get into the 4 different areas of the level. The first part is called the pool. This area is a huge flooded, unfinished basement with wood pillars and support beams placed all around. There's also a bunch of pipes and vents on the walls and ceilings, and there's actually uncovered electrical wires that run across the walls as well. That's a recipe for disaster. The only light source in the area are these orange light bulbs on the roof that kind of emit a really calming glow. The water that's flooded this basement is actually almond water, but it's not even safe to drink because it's really high in dirt and iron content, and apparently there's like a harmful bacteria that lives in the water as well, so that's no fun. One of the weird things that happens in this section of the level is that sometimes you can get teleported from one spot in the water to another spot. Like you could just randomly be walking and then be teleported to a completely different hallway. Other than the teleporting though, and the other stuff I mentioned, nothing else has really been discovered about this area. And the only really weird thing, minus the flooded floors of course, is that all the hallways in this zone take only right turns. 90-degree angle turns to be exact. There's never a rounded turn or a hallway, and some of the halls themselves are so short and so skinny that you could get claustrophobia from it. So if you get claustrophobia, don't come here, and if you have hydrophobia and claustrophobia, definitely don't come here. How deep the water is literally changes all the time, so it's advised to be extremely cautious when you're walking around the level. The safest spots in this zone are always where those orange lights are glowing, because when you get there you can see and it's less dangerous. And when you escape that light area and it's all dark, wanderers have reported extreme paranoia. The water itself has had some weird occurrences too. Like one time it apparently moved on its own and tried to talk to someone by spouting up water in the air, so the water might be sentient, we don't know. To get to the next zone that I'm about to talk about, you have to walk through the halls of the flooded zone, and eventually they'll change into the next level and become less flooded gradually. However, in these halls, there's actually actually an entity called the Screamers that live here. They're tall humanoids that have no face except a huge mouth, and literally all they do, their only purpose, is that they scream at the top of their lungs at wanderers and paralyze them with fear. The screams can only be heard by the wanderer that's being attacked, though, so if you get screamed at, no one's gonna come help you because they can't hear it. Okay. So if you make it past the screamers and the flooded, claustrophobic hallways, the next part of the level is called the Hall of Dull Flames. And this is a huge expanse of baby blue concreted walls and ceilings with white carpet on the floor. This entire zone has these blue lanterns that emit this really weird blue light that basks the walls and the ceiling. Speaking of the walls themselves look like they're kind of vintage from the Victorian era specifically, and there's paintings on the walls from the 1600s. There's been a bunch of reports in this area actually about some weird sounds that happen, like a distorted piano playing Beethoven, or the sounds of screaming. The main entities in these blue halls are actually skin stealers and screamers, of course. Not too bad. But in very rare cases, the blue lights here will turn red,
Ready?
which actually means...
Yeah, I'm ready. Protocol, we're doing a fucking school.
The library.
The library. Okay. Here we are. Where?
Right here.
Here.
Yeah.
Cool. Three, 2, 1. See you in the morning. Now, if you don't mind, get out of here. Get